Movie news for your update on today's entertainment for the classic movie fan. See you in July.
Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. Jack Benny, the star of our last film, this week's Essential to Be or Not to Be, was at the time he made that movie best known as a radio star. And thanks to radio, he was a household name and as popular a comedian as Bob Hope and later Johnny Carson and David Letterman would become. Everybody loved Jack Benny. And like Bob Hope, Benny was not only a continuous presence on radio, then on television, but also in the movies. To Be or Not to Be has gone on to become his most famous film, but he made any number of other movies as well, like a 1941 version of Charlie's Aunt. He was also in the comedy George Washington Slept Here, which he made with Ann Sheridan. There was The Horn Blows at Midnight, Love Thy Neighbor with Mary Martin, and the Western spoof Buck Benny Rides Again. I mean, many movies. He was also set to co-star with Walter Matthau in The Sunshine Boys in 1975, when he died suddenly before shooting started. But coming up, we have Jack Benny in a couple of other famous movies he made in his heyday as a movie actor. This next one, a biggie from Paramount in 1936, which is centered around a subject that Jack Benny was very familiar with, a radio station. We bring you The Big Broadcast of 1937, directed by Mitchell Leisen. In addition to Benny, the film also stars a long list of other great radio favorites like George Burns and Gracie Allen. Martha Ray's in it, Bob Burns, Shirley Ross, plus Benny Goodman and his orchestra, the great drummer Gene Krupa, legendary conductor Leopold Stokowski. I mean, their names in the 1936 era, the equivalent of lining up a great mix of today's most famous people from television, Carnegie Hall, movies, records, and Madison Square Garden's concert series, and putting them all in one film. In our film, Burns and Allen play a wealthy, eccentric couple who own a company that makes golf balls and is a big sponsor at the radio station where Jack Benny is the program director. And he's going through a period of very low ratings and trying to do something about it. This is actually the third in a series of movies having to do with a big radio broadcast. The first one made in 1932 by Paramount and starring Bing Crosby. The film primarily made to show audiences what many of their favorite radio stars looked like. In total, there were a total of 4 big broadcast films made. Burns and Allen appeared in 3 of them, Martha Ray in 2 of them, Jack Benny in 1, and both W.C. Fields and Bob Hope in the final edition. Sprinkled throughout these movies were newcomers to films who were also heard regularly on radio, such as Dorothy Lamour, Ethel Merman, the Nicholas Brothers, and in this next movie, a young Ray Milland. So from 1936, here's The Big Broadcast of 1937.